Good. Welcome to another class. Today we're going to discuss article writing, how to write an article. So we move on. So we're going to define articles, and then we're going to look at the features of article, and we're also going to look at the steps to be used when you want to write an article. So what is an article? It could be defined as a written work published in a print or electronic medium. You can write an article that you publish either in newspapers, in journals, in magazines, etc., etc. It may be for the purpose of delivering news. Article, of course, can be written to pass news, researching results, academic analysis, or even a debate. In other words, an article is a piece of writing that is usually published in a newspaper or a magazine for guiding a large audience on a particular topic or subject. For instance, if you want to discuss on a particular topic that perhaps you cannot gather people, you can put it in an article form that could be either published in newspapers, in journals. In doing so, of course, that could attract a larger audience. We say the main objective to write an article is to make someone changes to the world by presenting facts or views. So in any article that you're writing, you need facts that you are presenting in your article that you are writing. So we move on. Good. So format of an article. If you want to write an article, you need what we call a heading. Every article requires a title. That you must have your title and introduction and the body, the conclusion. Now, after the heading, you need an introduction. What is the introduction? What is the body? And what is the conclusion? Let's move on to the next slide and we see. Now, the heading, it should be catchy and also need to relate to the topic. In a nutshell, the heading summarizes what you actually want to write. For instance, if you're watching news or you're listening to the news, they always have the heading before the news in detail. So that heading must be catchy so that it will interest the reader. If the heading is not interesting, actually the readers will not read your article. Therefore, your heading must be very much interesting. Now, the length of the heading shouldn't go beyond 5 or 6 words. It should be short, it should be brief. And we have an example, the importance of girls' education. You want to write an article on the importance of girls' education, you can take this as your heading, the importance of girls' education. Now, if you look at this heading, it's not more than 6 words. As you have them, one as the first word, D, the second word, importance, third word, of, fourth word, girls, and the fifth word, education. So this heading consists of only 5 words. So your heading shouldn't go beyond 5 or 6 words. And we also said, think creatively and impress audience or readers with this one line. So this heading that you're making in your article must be very much interesting, otherwise your article might not be read. For instance, if you like the importance of girls' education, of course, it's very interesting. People or readers will want to read more to know whether girls' education is important or not. But when your heading is not interesting, of course, you might not attract many readers. So we move on. Now, after the heading, you need an introduction, which is the opening paragraph which briefly describes the topic to be discussed in the body. Now, all that you're going to discuss in an article must be briefly talked about in the introduction. All that you're going to discuss in the body must be talked about in the first paragraph, which is the introductory paragraph. In a nutshell, now the introductory paragraph will also give a brief summary of the body of the article. Because anybody who reads your introduction, if it is well written, will actually understand what you want to write. So we move on. Then after the introduction, we move on to the body. The body is the main part of an article writing. Usually, the body of an article consists of at least 3 to 4 paragraphs. It could also be more than that, depending on the subject matter, depending on the topics that you want to write. But traditionally, it is recognized that the body, of course, consists at least 3 or 4 paragraphs. But of course, if your article intends to talk a lot of things, you can go beyond 3 or even 4 paragraphs. So after the body, you need the conclusion. So what is in the conclusion? It is the final paragraph of an article. It should be like a recommendation, anticipation, views, appeal, etc. If you write an article, at the concluding part of it, you give a recommendation or you give your perception, you make an appeal on something and so. So we move on. Good. Now let's look at a sample of an article here. Now let's get this. Write an article in about 150 words under the title, The Lasting Value of Books. The lasting values of books. Now, as you can see, you have your heading first. What is the heading? The lasting value of books. Now, what comes after the heading? That's the introductory paragraph. So what is our introductory paragraph here? Is books are our constant companions. They are a great source of knowledge and entertainment. So you can see from the introduction here that you learn that books are our companions, not only companion, but also a source of knowledge where we get something. Not only knowledge we gather, but sometimes you can also get entertainment. Like if you read a play, you get entertained. If you read novels, you get knowledge. And of course, when you are bored, you can always have your book as your companions. So you can see here the introduction almost summarizes. Now we move on to the body. So the body consists of at least 3 paragraphs. And you can see the first paragraph begins with books. So you can see books can open up the unknown world to us and familiarize us with the unfamiliar. It is telling you the importance of books now. So we move on. It is fascinating to read various things that one has never seen or heard about. So when you read books, many a time you come across or you read certain things that you have never seen or you have never heard about them. All right? So we said books are the tools which we can explore the vast world around us. You might not travel to America, but through reading you can know a lot about America. You might not even travel to Senegal or even some part of the Gambia, but through reading you might know a lot about that area. Therefore, it is very essential to make a child understand the importance of books. Now that's the first paragraph in the body. So we move on to the next paragraph. One can motivate a child to read books by describing various adventures in books and presenting the child with books instead of toys. Now before you engage, giving toys to your children, engage them with books that they can read and then they can get something. Now we move on. A child soon tires of toys, which are only a source of momentary attraction. But once the reading habit is inculcated in the child, it will automatically grow and develop. So you can see those toys will only entertain, but cannot make the child grow intellectually or academically. So you can see how books are, how important books are. It can make a child to grow intellectually and academically, and of course it can help also the child to develop. So we move on. It is a habit that reaps rich reward for a lifetime. So it is also talking about the importance of books. Now let's move on to the concluding paragraph. The concluding paragraph states, books have stood test of time and last forever. They never grow old or change like the fashion or toys. Like today, if you buy certain toys for your children, after 1 or 2 months, they may not want to use those toys. But books, they never grow and they never change. The contents remain the same, and once you read, you always get something new. So you can see you cannot be compared to toys, because toys, they go out of fashion, they get outdated, that sometimes the children would no longer want to use them. So you move on. Their real importance is understood only in retrospection, and so having a lasting impact on readers. Thus, we should give a child gift that lasts and endure. So you can see this sample 1, you have the format. You have the heading first, and introductory paragraph you can see as the first paragraph, and the body itself consists of 3 paragraphs. You can see the first paragraph, the second paragraph, and the third paragraph. And there also you move on to the concluding paragraph. We move on? Good. We have another example here. Sample 2. You have been asked by the editor of your school magazine to write an article on the subject of terrorism. Write the article in about 200 words. Now, what is our topic here? Terrorism. So once you have your topic terrorism, the reader will want to know what is terrorism, because not everybody knows it, or people have different opinions, people have different perceptions, people have different ideas with regard to terrorism. So you can see readers will be interested to know what a terrorism is. So we move on. So the first line we have is our introductory paragraph. So the word terrorism is derived from the word terror, which means extreme fear. So that gives your introduction. So we move on to the body, which consists of 3 paragraphs. Terrorists are people who try to create an atmosphere of fear among law-abiding citizens by committing acts of violence against them. So you can see now, the body is developing. It is telling you exactly what the terrorism. In the introduction, it was only defined. But now, the body, it is telling you what terrorists exactly do. So you can see some of the methods that terrorists use to force a government of a country to accept their demands are bomb blasts, hijacking, assassination, and kidnapping. So you can see, as I said, the introductory paragraph defines the word terrorism. Now, the first paragraph talks about terrorists and the method in which they operate. So we move on. Terrorists do not hesitate to murder innocent and unarmed people, sometimes even their own country. Their purpose is to obstruct the social and economical development of a country. Now, the second paragraph in the body, it is telling you the activities of the terrorists. So we move on. So it says their purpose is to obstruct the social and the economical development of a country, thereby weakening it and forcing it to accept the power of those who support terrorism. Now that's the second paragraph in the body. Now we still move on. The third paragraph says, terrorism has become a worldwide phenomenon, that it is everywhere in the world. No country is safe from it. Many countries have suffered much at the hands of these wicked people, but we stand up against these evil forces. Now the concluding paragraph comes. If all peace-loving people of the world unite, is given a suggestion, because we were told earlier that the conclusion gives either recommendation, suggestion, or solution. Now here it is giving you a recommendation that if all peace-loving people of the world unite, then the poison spread by terrorist activities will surely be wiped out, and peace and harmony will return on the world. So you can see this sample has all the features of a good article. There is a heading, there is a paragraph, there is an introduction, and there is a body, and of course the body consists of 3 paragraphs which are chronologically arranged, and of course there is a concluding paragraph. So this is how we write an article. All right, we move on. Good. So in summary, an article is a piece of writing written for a large audience. The main motive behind writing an article is that it should be published in either newspapers or magazine or journal so as to make some differences to the world. So that's it for today. So take this exercise, write an article in about 150 words under the title, The Importance of Peace in Our Society. So make sure you follow the guidelines. What are those guidelines? There should be a heading, should be introduction, should be body, and of course, there should be a conclusion. So thank you all for your kind attention.